Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Yuka Huayi. Coming up in this show, 47 democracy advocates are on trial in Hong Kong in the largest mass prosecution under a controversial national security law, the case being labelled a trial of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement itself. What was it really like living under China's draconian lockdowns? Our correspondents heard some rare criticism of the government from Chinese youth. And bringing a breath of international air to centuries-old stage art, a 10-year-old Franco-Japanese boy is set to become the first dual-national Kabuki actor. But first, they've come to be known as the Hong Kong 47, the prominent activists, former lawmakers and student leaders who are standing accused of trying to topple the pro-Beijing government. Most of them, including Benny Tai and Joshua Wong, have been detained since their arrests 2 years ago and have pleaded guilty in pre-trial proceedings to avoid long prison sentences that could carry up to life in prison. Olivier Bizot reports.
A brief moment of protest outside a court in Hong Kong as one of the most significant national security trials was set to begin inside. Police soon stepped in. One member was taken away for breaking COVID-19 rules after taking off his mask in public. The case concerns the Hong Kong 47, a group of pro-democracy lawyers, politicians and activists. They've been charged with conspiracy to subvert state power after holding an unofficial primary election back in 2020. Prosecutors charged that the ultimate aim of that election was to overthrow the Beijing-appointed chief executive. But critics argue they were merely practicing normal opposition politics.
To participate in primary elections is not a crime. This is political persecution, and we call for the immediate release of all political prisoners.
Chan's husband is former lawmaker Liang Kwok-hung, also known as Longhair. He and 15 other defendants have pleaded not guilty out of the 47 who were arrested in a police raid in 2021. This is Hong Kong's largest national security law trial since Beijing imposed the sweeping legislation on the city, following mass anti-government protests in 2019. The law criminalises vaguely defined acts of secession, subversion, terrorism and collusion with foreign forces, all of which are punishable by life in prison. The landmark trial is attracting international scrutiny. Consular representatives from more than 10 countries, as well as from the EU, have attended to the courthouse.
We are here today because the European Union is following trials all over the world as a sign of our commitment to democracy, human rights and rule of law.
The trial is expected to last 90 days, but its implications could last years in a city critics say is rapidly losing its political freedoms and autonomy.
Life has returned to cities across China following the easing of COVID curbs. The change in the government's policy came following a wave of protests rarely seen in the country since the Tiananmen Square revolt in 1989. Our team went to hear directly from China's youth who suffered severe restrictions during lockdowns and who gave us a rare glimpse into what went on in people's minds in a heavily censored country.
The harsh COVID-19 lockdowns have left a mark on a whole generation. Just when they were getting their first taste of independence, hundreds of millions of Chinese youth were forced to stay indoors. University campuses turned into zero-COVID fortresses, cut off from the rest of the world. From March to June 2022, students in Shanghai weren't even allowed to leave their dorms. This student gives us a tour of what that meant. We have concealed her identity.
So here's our dorm room. There are 4 of us who live here. The beds are on top, and we keep our clothes and shoes underneath. The desks are on the left of the beds.
4 women in 20 square meters for 3 months. It's here where they tuned into their online classes and here where they had their food delivered. Only the curtains around their beds offered them any sort of privacy.
Sitting on this chair at my desk, every day with my face to the wall, life was monotonous and boring. Of course, there were moments when we couldn't find the motivation to work and study, when we had the impression that there was nothing to hope for or expect in life.
It was a difficult time for this young woman and her peers. According to one study, more than 80% of students in Shanghai suffer from depression and anxiety.
At the time, I was so lonely. I also felt the other students suffering. The only thing they told us was to hold on. Psychologically, we were left on our own.
Criticizing the drastic health restrictions put them at risk of punishment. So students on locked-down campuses found other ways to de-stress. These images went viral on social media. We see students crawling on all fours, others taking cardboard pets out for a walk. This wasn't just an online trend, but also a way to criticize the absurdity of their situation. Since the end of COVID restrictions, campuses have reopened. Our interviewee can now study wherever she wants, but most of her classes are still online, and she won't be forgetting what she lived through anytime soon.
We need to keep up this anger against the injustice and the unreasonable policies that we had to live through. Otherwise, we have no chance of changing the future.
And you can watch the full report in our show Reporters, available on our website. It's one of Japan's most celebrated performing arts. Kabuki dates back more than 400 years and is known for elaborate scenes, costumes, and male-only casts. Most actors are descended from 30 or so Kabuki families with long lineages and start training at a young age. Now, one boy is set to add a new chapter to the art's long history by becoming the first dual national actor. 10-year-old Maholo Terajima was born to a Japanese mother and a French father, and also hails from a prominent Kabuki family, with his maternal grandfather being designated a living national treasure. He announced his formal theatrical debut planned for May, both in French and Japanese.
J'aimerais un jour faire une performance de Kabuki dans le pays de mon père, la France. Je vous serais très reconnaissant de venir au théâtre de Kabuki en mai. Merci beaucoup.
Laurent Dacier is the creative director at La Boîte in Tokyo and the proud father of Maholo, who joins us now from Tokyo. Laurent, it's good to have you on our show. Now, first of all, how did Maholo get into Kabuki?
He's born in a Kabuki family, so he's been surrounded by it since he's born. And I think his grandfather inspired him very much and gave him the desire and the will to perform, to play.
Now, tell us more about Kabuki now. Many of the plays are classics from the 17th century, performed in rather archaic language. Why do you think they continue to appeal to the younger generation like your son?
This, if you know Japan, as you know, the continuation of things is a very important thing in this country, and it's part of our reality, and it's part of our daily of his daily life. And it's a fascinating art. You are disguised, you have makeup, you are fighting with swords, so it's a perfect playground for a kid.
A playground with samurai swords, and he has the right setup for it. Now, you've just mentioned it's a country of tradition. Kabuki is so steeped in tradition and rituals, and it's a very close-knit profession. How do you think your son's bicultural background will contribute?
the future of this little boy is full of mystery, and there is a chance that he has the desire to perform and to bring it outside or to make it known. And already by having this show, it's already a contribution to the spending the knowledge about this art.
As an art director yourself, you've drawn inspirations from Japanese tradition and culture in your own projects. Do you think performing art such as Kabuki has the potential to sort of bridge different cultures?
Definitely it has, because the historical grounds are common. The Kabuki stage are from Shakespeare. Are not from Shakespeare, are for the same period as Shakespeare, and the subject they are dealing with are very are looking each other. Are very similar, and that make us learn also how every country has evolved in history and where every country is now, with the beauty of Kabuki, with fixed in time, it's a testimony, it's a living testimony of what's happening 400 years ago.
And how do you feel personally after years of training? Your son is making a grand debut at Kabuki-za in Central Tokyo.
I'm extremely excited about it. I'm really looking forward to see him on stage and to see him performing and feel the emotion and accompany him to this moment, or following him rather than accompany. He's a good leader. He knows where he's going. But I'm very excited and very proud.
Laurent Nassier, the proud father of Mahalo, thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
And that's all for this edition of Access Asia. Please do stay tuned for more world news coming up here on France 24.